Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Glad to have this man back. It is Peter St Onge. He is a professor of economics. He's also a visiting fellow at the Heritage Foundation, and a great friend of ours. Peter, how are you? Good to see you.
I am great. Thanks for having me back on, Jeff.
You are great. I agree with you. So I just told you about this. I posted a video that was really reliant on a chart that was posted, I think, by the Dispatch. And it went down a list of all the economic indicators that are really, really important to people. Not stuff like really smart guys like you know, but stuff like how much do groceries cost? How much is the gasoline per gallon? How much is inflation? What exactly is it when we're talking about job growth and wage increases? Is it up or down? And in every single metric, we did decidedly better under Trump. And you and I have talked about that already, but I want to go here. The people on the left will have us believe Trump did so well because Obama handed him such a great economy. Biden is doing horribly because Trump handed him a horrible economy. So Trump gets no credit for anything. What do you have to say about that? That's really what they're saying.
Yeah, so this is going to be shocking, man. That's completely false.
What?
Those of us who were around at the time remember that all the chatter during Obama was how slow the recovery was, right? The economy had crashed in 2008. And normally after a recession, the economy comes zooming right back. And we never got that after 2008. It was limping along year after year after year. That is why the Federal Reserve did what's called quantitative easing when they go out and buy stuff. They don't normally do that when the economy is healthy.
Right.
But they had to do that because the economy was limping the entire time for Obama's 8 years. That ended when Trump came into office. And in fact, we were late in the recession. Like at that point, we were already starting to dip back into recession. It had already been 8 years, which is a long time in recession land.
Right.
And Trump brought it roaring back. You had job growth, you had income growth. Remember, he was getting rid of the regulations, and so small businesses could grow again. It was morning in America. And then, of course, COVID hit. Now, and during COVID, we had like 40% unemployment at some point.
Right.
Of course, government spending soared, GDP went down, all the rest of it. And that was COVID. That was because of lockdowns, which a lot of that Trump got goose marched into. And even if he didn't want to do it, a lot of the states pushed it hard. So like California,
do it anyway, yeah.
All these states, they stayed closed until Joe Biden took office. And then
happy days are here again. Everybody gets a job. Peter, I want to stop you there because this is such great information. The immediate response was what I said. Oh, Obama gave him a great economy, which we know is absolutely untrue. And Trump didn't do anything to fix the economy, which we know is absolutely untrue. But the one hit they have on him, and a lot of this had to do with COVID, but I'd love to get your insight on this, is that he spent so much more and he increased the federal debt so much more. It was $3 or $4 trillion, if not more than that. Was that all COVID, or was that a little bit of out of control spending too?
Yeah, so that's the game they play, is that they want to ignore that COVID happened, right? And so they want to put, the job losses during COVID, the spending during COVID, they want to put that all on his feet. They want to pretend that COVID never even happened. And so what you want to do is strip away COVID, and you just want to look at the part like before COVID started. You would do this for any president, right? Like if you're looking at FDR, you're not going to ask about what he did once World War II started. All right, if you're trying to get a handle of how FDR runs the economy, you're going to look at the period before the war started. That's really what COVID was from a government perspective. It was like fighting a war, for better or for worse. So if you look at Trump's first couple of years before that started, I think it was about close to 3 years in that COVID hit. So you got 3 out of 4 years of a clean record there. If you look at that record, Trump is not spectacular on spending. Okay, he's about the same as W or Obama. He's not super duper on spending.
Right.
But he's also completely normal on spending. Biden is a mess on spending. So if you take it year by year and you control for COVID, Biden spent about double. His growth in spending was about double what all those other presidents have been.
Oh, wow.
So Trump is no angel. He's about normal for a president, but Biden was an absolute disaster. Now, the problem, since Biden's out of the race, is that Kamala has been to the left of Biden on everything. There is no economic issue where Kamala is more centrist than Biden. She wants to get rid of all of Trump's tax cuts. Remember, Biden was talking about 400,000. That was his magic cutoff. You make over that, then you're going to lose the tax cuts. Everybody else he's going to protect. Kamala doesn't talk about any of that. Kamala's going to get rid of all of them. She wants to raise the capital gains on everybody. Remember, that's your retirement account, right? Your money in your 401k, that is earning capital gains. That's what you're going to retire on. That's what you're going to live on in your senior years. That's going to be taxed at a top rate of 44.6% under Kamala. She is raising taxes across the board. She has said yes to every single activist request. So she wants open borders. She wants free everything for illegals. Just across the board, she has been Biden on steroids.
It's Peter St Onge. Go and follow him at Prof. St Onge. You can go to peterstantonge.com. What great information. Let's talk about capital gains a little bit more, if you don't mind. When I think about capital gains, I think about I bought a house, I have it for a couple of years, I live in it for a couple of years, I sell it, and I don't have to worry about capital gains. If I sell it before that period of time, then I am faced with a capital gains tax, which is just some tax the government made up. And I think 15% is too much. She's floating almost 45%. In what world does that work?
Yeah, for sure. And that would be the highest rate, in fact, in history. It'd be higher than even the 1970s when we had Jimmy Carter.
Do other countries have that?
In office. Generally, countries have much lower rates on capital gains because they want to encourage people to invest.
Yeah,
right. Whether
sense.
It's investing in a house or in a business. So there are some countries that don't tax it at all. Across the board, countries generally tax at about half the rate of normal income. Countries like Canada or Europe or Japan. So putting that up to 44.5% is, I mean, really it's class warfare. And this is a pattern that we've seen under Biden and now under Kamala, is that they want to gut the productive economy so that they can get more tax revenue because they're spending so much that they got to try to plug some of those holes. Now, of course, we know from experience that if they raise taxes, the deficit doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
That's what they say, right? They say we have this big deficit, and so it's going to be prudent to raise taxes so that we can balance our books. They're not going to balance any books. They're going to take all that tax revenue and they're going to ramp up the spending even more. Biden had nearly doubled it during his term. Kamala, if she's looking for $5 trillion in tax hikes at the moment. If she gets that, it's going to go even faster.
And that $5 trillion, they keep on talking about millionaires and billionaires, but those are the people that employ us. I work for a big giant corporation, then I work for a bunch of small radio stations as well. But if you tax my biggest income source, they're likely to have less money to give me, less money to build, brick and mortar, less money to do research and development, less money to expand. In what world does that make sense to raise taxes on those that can actually help the economy?
Yeah, it's because we've got a left-wing media who's going to make apologies for this, and they're going to say, yeah, go soak the billionaires. So let's take Elon Musk. Elon Musk has $100 billion more, but that's not sitting in a giant vault in his basement that he goes swimming in, right? That's invested in companies.
That would be
right?
weird.
Yeah. Twitter, X, the rest of it. If you walk up to him and you say, I want 44.5 of that, 44%, how's he going to get that? He's going to have to sell it. That's just how it works. Now, you take that to a family business, you take that to a farm, right? If any of those things go up in value, Kamala wants a second death tax. It's something called the step-up basis, where when you die and then, if you pass your business, your restaurant, to your farm, to your kids, that's going to be taxed at 44.5% just across the board. So when you jack up these taxes, it makes really good headlines, right? Because we got a left-wing media and they say, soak the billionaires, they don't pay their fair share. In fact, all the taxes come from rich people. Poor people don't pay any taxes. Everybody knows this. They know it on both sides, but they lie. Yes. The thing is, if you ramp those taxes up, it makes for a great headline. Soak the companies, soak the billionaires. But what's going to end up happening is they're going to have to break up those businesses. They're going to have to cash in the family farm, the family business in order to pay those taxes. And then, of course, Washington's going to take that money. They're going to turn around and they're going to hire more EPA bureaucrats. They're going to hand out more money to illegal. The money is going to be completely wasted. So you will have traded a bunch of businesses and farms, and in return, you're going to get a bunch of handouts for illegals.
What you said was so spectacular that we had a fireworks show in the middle of it. It's Peter St Onge. It's at Prof. St Onge. Go and follow him, peterstantonge.com. What great knowledge. I'll never forget the scene. It was Tom Daschle, and I can't think of the other guy's name. I think that it was a representative, and Daschle was in the Senate. And they walked out complaining about how I think George W. Bush was going to cut taxes and was sending money back to people on taxes. And they walked out and said a millionaire and billionaire is going to get a free car because of the tax savings, and you're just going to get a muffler. And at the time, I was going, damn, mufflers are kind of expensive. I'd like to have a free muffler. This class warfare is nothing new, Peter. Is this as old as time?
Yeah, and that's the game they play, is if you actually break down who pays taxes, if you're making $30,000 a year, you might be paying $10 in taxes. So if you get a 50% tax cut, yeah, it's going to be $5. Not because the guy who cut the taxes is mean, but because they
Right.
don't pay any taxes to begin with.
Right.
So this is the permanent game they play. They roll out, if you gave a tax cut that gave 1% to the billionaires, but 70% to poor people, it's going to be a much bigger number for the billionaire because the dollars involved are large. So they've been playing this game forever. The problem is that the collateral damage to that is to gut the real economy, right? There's some point where rich people, they don't put the money in a business, they go out and buy a yacht. See, this is the irony of it, is that if Democrats go after billionaires for the money, what they're actually going to end up doing is they're going to stop investing that in businesses. They're going to stop creating jobs because that's all going to get taxed away. They're going to go out and buy a boat with it because the boat's not going to get taxed.
Yes.
And so you actually get the exact world that nobody wants. Democrat voters do not want a world where everybody's putting their money in yachts. Okay, nobody wants that world, but that's what happens if you jack up the taxes too high.
It's Peter St Onge. Yeah, they play that game to try to win elections, and sadly, it works a lot. But the one thing that people I don't think understand, and if you think I'm stupid, you'll tell me. You often do. But the people don't seem to understand that if they take it from Elon Musk, they're not going to give it to me. They're not going to give it to them. They're not going to give it to the part of Chicago that needs help, more police, or a place for teenagers to go and learn how to be productive members of society. They're just going to take it. And they're going to waste it, and they're going to pay down the debt and the interest on the debt. I mean, that's a true claim, right? They're not going to take it from Elon Musk and distribute it to everybody else.
Right. They're going to take it. They're going to waste it. There's actually worse, which is that in the process of wasting it, they're going to hog up the resources. So let me give an example. A couple of years ago, they put out this infrastructure bill. And Pete Buttigieg was going to rebuild the racist overpasses, if you remember that.
Yes.
The problem is that rebuilding racist overpasses takes concrete and construction workers and equipment. Now, at that time, we had this huge supply chain crisis, and the vacancy rate of warehouses in Los Angeles was like 1%. So you had all these trucks that were parked out in the middle of the street getting broken into because it's LA. Right. So the entire supply chain was frozen up because they could not build more warehouses. Why couldn't they build warehouses? Because they were over there on the racist overpass. Wow. So people forget it's not just the government steals your money. It's that they take that money and they use it to bid away workers and concrete and everything else. So every gun that went to Ukraine, for example, that could have been a railroad bridge. It took a bunch of guys to build it. It took a bunch of steel to build it. You could put those guys and the steel on a railroad bridge. You could have put them on a private business. They could have started up a bowling alley. Instead, what do? We wasted it. And this is government across the board. So not only do they waste the money, they waste the real resources.
I love the plain talk. I mean, Peter, that just made so much sense. It's Peter St Onge. Go and follow him at Prof. St Onge on X. You can go to peterstonge.com. One last question. We just saw a quiet revision, although I wasn't quiet about it, of the jobs. They created a million fewer, 840, whatever it was, fewer jobs. It's massive, the number. And they quietly talked about it. It only came out sort of kind of during the DNC, but we were, all busy looking at all the happy, joy at the microphone. What does that really mean when they say they had to adjust the jobs number down by almost a million?
Yeah, so this is something a lot of us have been complaining about for a while because you can see it in the numbers. So there's this large gap between the number of jobs that the government said was created compared to the number of jobs that people actually say they have. That's in something called the household survey.
Okay.
And government statisticians look at both of them. So these are both government numbers. It's not conspiracy theory. But there was this massive gap between the two of them that opened up as soon as Joe Biden came into office. And so a lot of us were saying there's a problem here. Those jobs are not real. And so, we got attacked. It's conspiracy theorists and government number truthers. And so now the BLS comes out and they say, hey, what do you know? 818,000 of those jobs, they just erased them. They said they're not real.
Wow.
These are from their own statistics. And so, a lot of us are saying, okay, is that all the jobs? Did you guys come clean? Are there a lot more jobs? Because another issue is that during COVID, we had the PPP loans.
Yes.
Right. And that was free money that went out to you if your business was impacted by COVID. The thing is that a lot of people started fake businesses.
Right.
But there was one guy recently got arrested for gang shooting, and he had started a nano materials. He was going to cure cancer. Okay. There's a lot of that. So how many of those are fraudulent? And the problem is that those millions of PPP fake businesses, government doesn't care because they probably think that the people who founded them would vote Democrat, but those things feed into the statistics that the government uses to try to predict how many jobs there are. So we could have potentially millions more jobs that are fake because there are these fraudulent businesses that started. And so what that gets us to is that, one of the mysteries of the past 2 years has been that people say in polls that times are tough, they can't find a job, they can't afford stuff, we're already in recession. And then the government numbers say, no, everything is doing amazing. And so the media has been trying to figure out, of course, they say, no, the people are idiots. But at some point, people can see everything around them. They have friends who lost jobs. They have people who are getting pay cuts. And so as we see the government statistics start to tell the truth, that's the question is, are things as bad as people say they are?
It's amazing information, Peter. I appreciate you really spelling it out. And what's interesting? When you do what you just did, people really do perk up because right now they're hearing a bunch of blah, 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 and it doesn't make any sense. This side says this side says that. My mother voted for that, so I'm going to vote for that side. When it's really down to what does the economy do for you? What does it mean for your family? What does it mean for your costs every day? What does it mean to your rent or your mortgage or lack thereof? You can't even get a mortgage at this point because nobody's lending any money. When you spell it out like you do, that's why I love having you on. Plus, you're a cool dude. But really, really great information. I'm going to post this everywhere. I think everybody needs to go and follow you at Prof. St Onge on X and go to peterstonge.com. Thanks a million for the knowledge.
Thank you, Joe. It's always a pleasure.
I appreciate you. We're back after this. Stay right here.